Hello everyone. In this short film we shall be investigating the private life of one of Britain's most exciting and secretive birds of prey, the Eurasian sparrowhawk. Before we dive into this story, don't forget to give this channel a like and subscribe. Hope you enjoy. Although one of Britain's most commonly seen birds of prey, the Eurasian sparrowhawk is still one of the most elusive and mysterious, as much of their private life is largely unseen. Although they are often recognised as the second most common bird of prey species in the UK in most areas, much of what is seen of sparrowhawks is usually a fleeting glimpse of them flying past, with woodlands, parks and gardens being their preferred habitat. A member of the family of birds known as accipiters or true hawks, sparrowhawks are highly manoeuvrable and fast-flying hunters, typically of smaller birds in mid-flight. This short film will focus on some exceptional footage captured of these birds, all filmed in a single garden in the UK back in 2018. This is one of our main characters in this story, an exceptionally large and powerful female sparrowhawk. This particular female bird is well identified because of her unusually large size, even by sparrowhawk standards, and also her unusually bold behaviour, as she's seen relatively indifferent to the activity of humans nearby. Here we see the resident female sparrowhawk on a blackbird kill, and she plucks its feathers away from its body after she has dispatched it. In the wild, the Eurasian sparrowhawk primarily hunts other birds, although on rare occasions they have been known to feed on small mammals as well. Although some dislike the sight of a bird like this hunting small birds in their garden, it must be noted that this is a predator killing only to survive like any other. While seeing a sparrowhawk kill its prey in the wild may be unsettling for some, it should be noted that domestic and feral cats kill far more wild birds and animals than any sparrowhawk. With large talons and unusually long legs and feet for their body size, sparrowhawks are well able to take birds sometimes as big or even larger than themselves, as this footage of an unrelated sparrowhawk taking a feral pigeon proves. Here we see the resident female sparrowhawk back in the garden, feeding in an old mulberry tree in the middle of a snowstorm early in the year. To add credence to her species' usually elusive nature, she had well concealed herself within the branches of this ancient tree, which made it especially hard to get a good focus on her, but as you can see, she was especially hungry during this time. Freezing temperatures and heavy snow early in 2018 made conditions especially harsh for birds, particularly small active raptors like this. But the hunting prowess and experience of this particular female meant that she was able to get through these hard times, and this blackbird she was eating gave her a much needed boost. As winter progressed into early spring, this particular sparrowhawk remained the only individual frequently seen in this garden. This is to be expected as accipiters are particularly antisocial and solitary in nature, and so other individuals would not be tolerated within her territory. So it came as a great surprise one day in March when another sparrowhawk turned up in the same area, but not only was it a different individual, it was a male and was sexually mature. Easily identifiable by his bluish upper parts, striking red underparts and large yellow feet, meant that this male was not only mature, but in full breeding costume and ready to mate. At first, these two birds were seen separately in the garden at different times, and would not appear in the same place at the same time. Furthermore, since there was a somewhat lack in aerial display behaviours observed in the area, which is known for exhibitors in breeding season in terms of courtship, meant that possible breeding behaviour being observed between these two birds was still uncertain. And then, on a calm spring day in early April, the male sparrowhawk returned to his usual vigil. To see a male sparrowhawk in full breeding costume as a mature adult is truly special. This was the first time I had ever seen a wild male sparrowhawk, let alone one in breeding costume. In falconry terms, a male sparrowhawk is referred to as a musket, and the gun known as the musket is what this is named after. And then, while this was going on, the female bird suddenly appeared on the other side of the garden and was clearly making contact with the male perched at his usual post. She even started to call to him, which is something quite unusual for sparrowhawks to do, as most of the time they seldom vocalise, though when they do, it sounds somewhat like an amusing squeaky toy kind of sound. Her calling and preening behaviour around this male indicated she was interested. In response, the male would approach the female to close quarters and court her using his brilliant coloration. As you can see by this still image, he would flare out his brilliant red underside feathers and also expose his brilliant white undertail feathers, and engage in a strange kind of dance where he would appear to pick at his toes with his beak, while almost dancing in a strange twirl on his perch. The two birds then unexpectedly disappeared for a short while, but then they returned, and for the first time they mated in full view. This footage displays the two birds together after their first mating. After this brief mating session, the pair would mate continuously for a number more days to ensure that fertilization was successful. With the male and female birds so close together, you can clearly see how different they are from each other. This isn't just apparent in their coloration, but also their size. Most birds of prey exhibit a feature known as reverse sexual dimorphism, where the females are unusually larger than the males. In true hawks like the sparrowhawk, the size difference between males and females seems even more apparent, and the females can seem almost an extra half the size. It just goes to show the confidence of this male sparrowhawk approaching this female. On this occasion, however, his confidence and his brilliant coloration seemed to win her over. As the bonding process between these two birds began to strengthen, there was also a notable change in the female sparrowhawk's behaviour around the garden. For one thing, she became increasingly territorial and aggressive even towards other bird species within the garden. She was frequently observed attacking and chasing away corvids such as crows and jackdaws, and was even seen fending off a passing buzzard. It seems she wanted this place as devoid of threats as possible if she was to raise a family and continue courting with her partner. She also immediately began gathering sticks around the garden lawn and carrying them away to an unknown location. Obviously with the intent of building her nest. To see a wild sparrowhawk on the ground gathering sticks for a nest is truly unusual to see, although on this occasion, rather amusingly, this stick proved too large even for her to carry. On this occasion, she pounced from a low-lying branch as if she was attacking a small bird to eat, although when she reappeared it became apparent she had actually caught herself a small stick for her would-be nest. As early spring continued to take hold, the activity within the garden continued to increase, with the birds being frequently seen copulating and courting, and the female bird attending her usual duties, including gathering sticks, and on this occasion taking a moment to preen her feathers. Maintenance of feathers is highly important for any bird species, though it is especially important for a fast-flying active predator like a sparrowhawk, which relies on her speed and agility to catch small prey in flight. On this occasion, it wasn't long until her mate came to join her, and they both perched side by side to preen together. However, this tranquility would not last, and before long another female sparrowhawk would appear, slightly smaller than the resident bird, as if claiming the right to try and mate with the male. The resident female bird fiercely chased her rival, but her opponent would not give up so easily, and she remained in the area. Some of these pursuits became quite intense between the treetops and also high in the air, where they would frequently swoop at each other, and on one occasion even made contact and feathers were pulled. These aerial battles became increasingly frequent, though full-on physical contact was not observed, and the two birds did not engage in a fight to the death. In nature, we are usually accustomed to seeing males of species fighting for the right to mate, but on this occasion the roles were reversed. It's possible that the lack of male birds reaching sexual maturity in this area could explain the fierce competition between females for the right to mate. In the wild, far fewer male sparrowhawks or muskets reach sexual maturity than the females, usually because they're much smaller and therefore more at risk of starvation as well as predation from larger predators. Despite the presence of this intruder, the resident female sparrowhawk was defiant and fiercely defended her mate and her territory from this rival. The rival sparrowhawk female continued to hang around the outskirts of the garden at times, but she daren't approach the resident female or male after this experience. The male and female bird continued to court as the season progressed, and the female continued to gather sticks for a would-be nest, though it was unclear at the time where she would build it. As mentioned earlier, this female sparrowhawk was particularly aggressive around her territory, and she had a particular distaste for carrion crows, who were also planning on nesting in a large tree nearby, which she must have sought as well. Sadly, around early May of that year, the activity between the two birds suddenly ceased in the garden, and all was quiet once again. The two birds hadn't died, as they both reappeared in the next year and would occasionally appear thereafter, but the level of breeding behaviour observed here this season would never be seen again. To this day, it remains unknown whether or not these birds managed to successfully raise a family of young that spring in a nearby area unknown to human observers, or the competition for the nesting sites with the carrion crows forced them to move on. Even so, it was incredible to observe the private life of a bird species that, although common in the UK, is so elusive that such behaviours are rarely seen and even less caught on camera. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this short film documenting the life of a sparrowhawk in the UK. Until next time, see you in the next one.